Hey, Steve, maybe if you could tell us the school you're from, a little bit about your background, and then the Global Scaling Challenge.
Hi, thanks an awful lot, Tim and Voss. Appreciate being here. Um, and I was very impressed with X Culture. I'm a distinguished professor from the University of New Mexico, basically focused on technology, entrepreneurship, and technology project management. I have a checkered past as a professor. I actually started four firms before I went to school and got a PhD in management. I have an undergraduate in engineering from RPI.
Uh-huh. And when did you come up with the idea for the Global Scaling Challenge, and how long has it been running?
Yeah, this is its sixth year. So in the middle of COVID, I guess, or the beginning of the COVID issue, a lot of people just never looked at scaling. It's the redheaded stepchild of economic development. People really want to start firms. People really want to attract firms, but very little, I'd say less than 5% of all the funding into economic development goes into scaling firms. And we thought that this was something as a university and as a school and with the people that we knew around the world, we knew this was a problem and we knew that academia was a great place to start to solve the problem.
If you talk a little bit about the Global Scaling Challenge itself, the number of teams, how it
Sure.
works.
The Global Scaling Challenge, to be honest, when we began, we didn't know if it would do well, and it's done exceptionally well. Um, the Global Scaling Challenge can accommodate. We now have this year our fourth and maybe fifth regional challenge, and so that means at least 20 teams per challenge day, and so that means we can take up to 80 teams from universities around the world. The most we've ever had was last year. We've grown every year, which was 48 university teams.
When you say region, you have what, America's region, a
We have
European,
the
and then
Americas region, we have, which is North and South America. We have Europe and Africa region. And the Americas region is hosted by Tim's school, Fit and to be Tied, and Boston and Rowan. The European Challenge is hosted by Johannes Kepler and Grenoble, maybe another school this year. And then we have the Australasia group, which is hosted by Topper, and one other university has petitioned to be part of it as well.
And
So
the teams are university level, so all the students on a team are from the same university, right?
yeah, it's not always, but mostly. Not.
Yeah.
It's a little different than yours, Voss.
That's what I mean. So the goal is not to mix them up, but rather a team represents a university more or less.
More or less. We've had about five teams that have asked to go mixed, and we like that when they do it. It's just we find it's easier for the students to work together. One of the great things about X Culture is you bring everybody together. We are virtual, and virtual means we could do it that way. We just have not done it that way. And most of the teams, even when they are together, are from near region schools.
And there are definitely advantages to doing it the way you do it. So universities or schools for that matter, they like to be in a competition as a school, as an institution. So University XYZ wins, Florida Institute of Technology wins.
Right.
With X Culture, we can't say that. So how can a university win when each student is on a different team? So that makes it a little bit less fun, so to speak. So your model does have many advantages for sure.
Well, I think your model has advantages. I think it's exceptional when you get students from a number of schools around the world working together. I think that's very commendable and exceptional. And
something. I'm sorry, Steve. Sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
Something I thought was very interesting. I had a conversation with Steve about 3 years ago. I came across Global Scaling Challenge, and I called him up and I said, I have a freshman class. How would they do? So, well, first of all, it's open to students at any level. So from freshmen all the way through PhD candidates. And he said the interesting thing is sometimes the PhD students get too theoretical and the younger students are more creative. So he really encouraged me a couple of years ago to get involved, and now we mixed our teams.
Yeah.
So it's all within the university, but even some of it's outside the college, because he's going to talk in a minute about the companies. There's usually a strong technology focus. So having an engineering student on a team with a business student and maybe a communication student, there's some real value in that. And Steve, maybe you want to address that, your philosophy.
Sure. Well, the philosophy is that real businesses have multiple types of people, international management students, entrepreneurship students, biomedical engineering students, and we suggest they try to mix that up. It's not it's in the same vein as what Voss does, only on an international level. We do it on a knowledge-based level.
Very interesting.
So that's, we've had Indiana University, I think, won our first issue with an all-freshman general business team. We've had an all-graduate PhD team win from, I think it was Johannes Kepler. So we find that, but most of the time it's a mix of students, some management, some engineering, some sciences, psychology, it doesn't matter. And they get together, and the more different ways of looking at things, the better off they can be.
Yeah. The other very interesting aspect of this one, which most companies don't have, is there's different rounds. So if you are good enough to get through the first round, Steve recruits a second company. See, maybe we'll talk about the format of how that when they get the case, sure, and when they have to present, and then where it goes from there. And if you have a slide, you want to bring them up, whatever you want to do here.
Oh, I don't. It's fine. We could talk about. We have the regionals are just that. We try to give all the regions the same firm, but sometimes if they're different days, we don't want to cause people to copy other people. So one of the things I really liked with your effort at X Culture, you had six different companies you were looking at. And we try to do that. Usually we have 3 or 4 universities per year.
One of the challenges when we talk about the company selection, so most of the time, like this semester, we have 10 in the online version. Oh. So it's usually 5 or 4 when we do the on the ground event in the summer. But in the regular competition, I always aim for 7, but we always end up more like 10 to 15, which is fine. So that's great, no problem. But how do you assign teams to companies? In the early days, Tim may remember, we tried to assign them more or less evenly, essentially assign centrally. That was not good because in many cases, students would really prefer to work on a different challenge, and here they got this one. But also it was counterproductive because if they know something or have interest in a specific industry or have an idea for a specific challenge, it makes no sense to force them to work on something else. Then we had the caps and said, like a maximum 100 teams per company or something like that. But then again, the cap would be reached, and then it's not clear what do we do, too late. Like it was logistically difficult, and also led to some teams being left out or assigned to the challenge they cannot help with, and the other way around, not being able to work on the challenge they can help with. Eventually, we went with the model that we have now, where teams can choose any company and switch it at any time. The challenge here is that there are always more popular companies. And so sometimes, like last semester, it was a company that makes shoes out of recycled materials out of Brazil. And so they took like 60% of all teams, making it essentially too many teams for one company. It's like, like 2 feet of reports to read. If you stack them up, nobody can read that much. And then other companies having fewer teams, not enough teams, so to speak. And so we never quite figured out how to handle it. So sometimes I think that it would have been easier if there was just one company and that's it, or maybe 2 and evenly split. But yeah, I guess some pros and cons in that model too.
Yeah, well, you have a good model. It's so we say, matter of fact, we kind of our subtitle of the Global Scaling Challenge is students making a difference. So how do we select the firms is one of the things. We select the firms that first are ready, that we think are ready to scale, and our sponsors think that are ready to scale, number one. Number two, we try to look at a technology base. Well, the number two thing we do is we want to, um, we actually tackle world grand challenges. We look for firms that are tackling world grand challenges. And when we find those firms that are looking at world grand challenges, we then take a technology base that's important, in our case, to the United States and the world. And so we want to do like a triple bogey hit, if you will. And then we say to the students, our themes this year are going to be, this year probably is, well, it is going to be quantum, but we also do aerospace because space colonization is important. We also do medical, but for obvious reasons. And I guess one of the wonderful things is students often are challenged by this. To your point, boss, they will say, well, I don't know anything about medicine, or I don't know anything about space, or I don't know anything about quantum. And I always say, well, not too many people do.
Yeah.
So get to it and you'll do fairly well, which is pretty interesting. So this year, there is so much of a buzz around quantum right now and what it can do. We're doing quantum as a theme. We also have to respond to our sponsors and what they want. And we think, and our whole basis for having students look at this and how I sell it to the firms is really simple. Tim's a brilliant guy. Boss, you're brilliant. I'm okay. And I think I might know something about what this firm can do or what this firm can't do. However, I guarantee you that if I get 400 or 600 eyes on a single firm, they're going to learn something. I'm going to learn something. We're all going to find something that has some really good ideas. And maybe we should talk about last year's firm. And Tim's team, I think, came in fourth last year.
Third. They came in
third. Excuse
We're
me.
still celebrating.
So they won bronze. And I will tell you that both the team, but I actually interviewed firms a little early this year. Good thing that I did. One of the firms already got $20 million that they in new investment that they directly attribute to some of the students' presentations. And one of the firms has already doubled in size due to the students' presentations and the further interactions with them. And both of them have asked to talk to the top 3 student teams. And I said, well, it'd been nice if you had asked us right after. But so that's something we're going to also put in this year, boss, where we're going to have the top teams talk to each firm.
Yeah.
You judge them a little different than we do. We get judges from around the world. We get venture capitalists. We get everything you would think in scaling, economic development people, private equity people. We even get people that are billionaires. We're lucky enough to get a few of those and occasionally put a few shekels into one of these firms. And the interesting thing is that they also, that we give the opportunity of the firms to actually reach out and talk to the judges if they would like. We have we specifically focus on emerging technology firms, boss. We deep tech, emerging technology most of the time. But
we would very much prefer to have judges like that, or at least the company representatives to read all of the reports and tell us which ones they think are the best. Again, the problem being with over 1,000 teams total,
Sure.
and usually over 100 teams per company, who has the time to look at that many reports? I mean, if we did the presentations, it would take like a week of nonstop presenting. So we have to resort to crowdsourced, essentially, evaluations, professors doing the evaluations, of whom we have over 150, 160. So everyone evaluates a few dozen, and that gives us some sort of an indication.
Hopefully this year I can be one of your evaluators if you would like.
We would very much welcome that.
And no, you guys were great to me. And even though I was dying on the vine when I finally got there, I had missed 2 flights and been up for 30 hours. So I'm so sorry. I didn't do my best. Getting too old for that. I will say that, if I can, would you mind if I shared a couple of things? And
You should be able to, yes.
Please
I
do.
think you should have the right to share the
how do I
slides.
how do I share?
There should be a button there, share, so it's a little different from Zoom, but
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I don't know. Share the screen.
mhm,
It's
yeah,
coming out
yeah,
now. It's,
we
it's,
see
it's
it,
up,
yes.
Steve. It's up.
Okay, so it's similar to you. We're all into
Steve,
making
the
a
only
difference.
thing is, can you go in the presentation mode so this
Sure.
way we will not have all that meta stuff around?
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
I think, yeah, that's a little further down. Yeah, that's the one.
Presentation mode. Didn't work.
I think it's the last one button in that
Yeah, I
that
know, but
sequence.
I have to move your pictures here.
Oh, I didn't realize it. We don't see, we just see them. Mhm,
All right.
mhm, yeah.
So
yeah, perfect.
it's all about, just like yours, it's all about how can we make them make a difference. And we very much like your in-person one, we make a representative from every firm stand up and review at the time of presentation. So that's a commitment we ask from the companies we select. As you had asked, it's live, it's 6 years old. We've given out $160,000 in prizes and a number of internships, maybe 20. This year, more than $30,000 in awards are already pledged. Students often receive more than prizes. These are the things I like, and I know that you guys have had students been asked by your firms, I'm sure, to work with them. But one of them, as a result of the Human Scaling Challenge, I became an intern in one of the firms, and now I have worked my way up to CEO of Wildlife Protection Management, a fast-growing sustainability-based firm, basically handling horses and big animals. Then 2 years ago, as a result of UNM Scaling Challenge, I started as an intern, and now he's the chief of staff at Space Kinetics. One of those was a UNM student, the other was a student from the Americas, but we've had students. This is not, they just got the best two sounding jobs. And so there we are. Um, just we talked about the theme choices, but one of the things you probably want, you had asked a little bit early about deadlines and times and stuff like this. And we're going to be doing January 15 team reservation deadlines. In other words, if you have a couple of teams and you're at a school like Florida Institute of Technology, you can put two teams up and you're in. And we have a deadline for students to fully register. We have a regional challenge case release. Then we have the finals case release. And then these are tentative dates. Asia, as Tim knows, is considering March 6th. They might want March 13th, and they might want February. But see, I thought I put this up. You see who is bronze on this one last year.
Took us a couple years to get there.
Yeah, well, that's right. We have 20. You can see that University of New Mexico placed sixth, and they were thrilled. And we give them prize-based money. 23 teams were awarded prizes, in other words, money, in 2025, and that was, say, 4 times 20 and 80, 92 students. And we're going to have a better way of distributing the money next year, Tim.
Yeah, Voss appreciates your problem. And just to make the point for the students, anybody watching this, those are cash prizes. So on my students team, the $4,000, each student got $1,000.
That's substantial.
And the winning team, what he didn't mention there Steve, if you go back one slide, I just wanted to make a point about something. It's really cool here. So on February 20th, all the students will get a company and a video from the company talking about the challenge and a document. They've got 2 weeks to prepare it. They make a presentation, and there's winners coming out of that. It gets some money.
Oh yeah,
And
they
then
do.
Steve, Yeah, it was like $2,500 for the winning team or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
$2,500, $1,000, and $500
But
on
I
every
like
regional.
my students like the compressed time periods. They only have 2 weeks to do it. They present if they are good enough to go on to the next round. 2 weeks before the April 3rd, they get another company. They've got to analyze and they make the presentation. And then there's the award somewhere. So there's 2 rounds involved if you're good enough with 2 different companies. But it doesn't happen over like months and months. It's very compressed. You know, you either, like I tell my students, either you're in or you're out. But
Yeah.
you can't drag your feet. You can't wait till the last minute. You've got to start the day they release the case.
Yeah, I will say that we did have at some point cash prizes. Once we did a study to see if cash prizes make a difference. And once we did a study on competition versus collaboration. And so in the collaboration condition, we provided the teams with a discussion boards where different competing teams can actually collaborate and discuss points. And then in the competition version, there was a weekly leaderboard and there was a cash prize at the end for the, I think, 3 best teams to induce that sense of competition. So they were not as big. I think it was something like $1,000 for the winning team, maybe 2,000 one time. So we are talking about hundreds of dollars per team member in the end. And both times, logistically, it was such a nightmare. So paying money, yes, paying money to students in the United States was, mailing checks is not the easiest way. At that time, we were mailing checks, but at least it's, like 5 minutes, write the check. This is the address, a few emails to get the address and you send it. But to some countries, we spent many times in effort and time of our administrators to make the payment than the payment itself was worth. Like for the 3rd place, it was something like, I believe, like $500. So everybody gets like $100 or something like that. And we would spend hours and hours back and forth trying to make an international wire transfer. It wouldn't work. Always something's missing. Sometimes you literally had to get a permission from the central bank of some republic in Africa to get a permission to wire the money. One time it was literally mailing, I think it was like a cash to some relative in Los Angeles who will then, like, it was such a challenge that at some point I said, you know what, as much as I'd like to give winners some cash, it's just too hard to do in the international settings.
Well, we have a lot of international teams, and as
Maybe now it's, yeah, with all those Zelle and Payoneer and Remitly,
it's
maybe.
problematic all the way around. We think we have a way to get around it. If it works this year, I'll tell you all about it, boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve spent the greater part of the summer getting money out to students.
Yeah. And when you're trying to be researchers, that's hard to do. But, on the prizes, we just, the idea like yours, I think we live in a global world. I'm an entrepreneurship professor. We say we're born global, and you can take a look at, there's U.S. teams. Phoenix is not a U.S. team. That's India. Rowan's New Jersey. That's in, I think, Finland. A Topper is in India, Austria. Then that Florida Institute of Technology Team 2 won, and that we had 20 some odd winners. We just give you the top 13 here. Well, but one of the things we found, and I can probably shut this one off, I guess now. Oops, what happened? What happened to us? Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
All right. So I also,
I think it's showing, instead of the slides, it's showing us. So I think wrong
That's
screen
fine.
is.
That's right. We just use the slides for.
Oh, so then, yeah, we can just stop sharing then. Okay.
Yeah. And so the idea is very similar to yours. I want the students to be better than I want them to have better opportunities than I ever had. I want them to have things that I never believed possible. I wanted them to meet and interact with people from around the world similar to you in those things. Whoop, something happened.
No, that's, yeah, I'm just trying to remove the sharing part. Okay, so it should be working now.
But I believe strongly that this helps a great deal. Of course, some people won't like it, some people will. One of the interesting things we do is we interview all the firms that we've worked with every year. And so one of them, the first year, wasn't all that excited. That's it. And then they called us and they say, I was a young uh, president. You guys challenged us. What we ended up doing is exactly what you said. We have now doubled in size. And that isn't, I hear this a lot. And I said, well, give me the numbers. They go, well, we went from 5 to 15. I said, that's tripling in size. And we got funding, we got new contracts, all because your students, and we didn't follow anyone directly, all because of this was KMI, Tim, and I think your students did pretty well with KMI. And they said, geez, you know, without you guys, we would be not a company. We would have closed. So one of the things this also does, it sustains people. And I think the students take great pride in that. And we're going to try, and boss, I don't know everything I should do, but we're trying to give all the comments that the companies made back to all the student mentors anyway. And so they can send it back forward. But so far, we've had a positive effect on all but two of the firms. And they just went under. But all the other firms have been very positive. One of the firms wrote my president and said, this is the best thing we've ever seen. This actually provides us value. It's real, it's on time. And I imagine you've had a hard time with this too. But I ask them, I don't make them, I ask them, well, I guess I say it's part of either the founder or one of their officers have to be in front of the camera, and they judge as well. But they're not the only judge. Just because of that issue, so many people, we tell them we're trying to make you scale. We're not trying to get you to be 5% better next year. And if you don't scale, we need to do better. And if you don't scale as a small firm, you're in survival for them.
Right.
And so far, so good.
One of the values to the students, for both Steve and Walsh, at least for my students, was the CEO and some of their staff being on the phone and asking the students questions. That, the students would come on and go, wow, the CEO asked me about this, asked me about that. And sometimes they can answer, sometimes they can't. And I said, well, that's part of the learning experience. You can find a business professionals, and some of them ask pretty difficult questions, some pretty technical, and the students have to think on their feet or based on what they know.
Well,
go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. I want the interaction, and I want and I tell the firms that you're going to get different ideas probably than you've thought about. Doesn't mean they're wrong, doesn't mean they're right. It's going to try and expand what you do. And if the firms aren't willing to do that, I'm not really, one of the problems that some people get if you just go the VC route. It's just one of the ways we thought about doing it. I actually put up a VC fund once, and it's still running. I don't particularly like that world, but but if you go the VC route, the VC is going to tell every student group what they should do. And I don't want that. I want the students to come up with their own ideas of what a company should do. And actually, we try to prep the students to tell a lot of these young entrepreneurs, and they're not that young. Some of them are very old, as a matter of fact. But is that, a VC interview is a two-way interview, not a one-way interview. And if you view it as a one-way interview, as a president, you're probably making a mistake. And so, but I think your students have done great with them, and so this next year we are going to do post interviews with the top teams if the firms want it, and I believe they will. And we've been lucky with the firms. I'm not a clairvoyant, and I don't get to choose every firm, right? If you have sponsors and you take sponsors, you have to be responsive to sponsors. And I think that's also important for students to know.
Steve, what areas of the world are you trying to get more teams this year?
We would love to get more teams from Africa, South America, Australia. We've had a very poor showing from those areas. I know you guys do so good in those areas.
Yeah.
And we'd love, we uh, are every year each region increases, so I can't say that they haven't increased, but our lowest amount of increase has come from Europe and Africa. So we would be pleased as punch, as Hubert Humphrey would say, if we got more African teams. We only have one so far. And so that's where that is. And similarly, we've only had a couple from South America. We've only had one from New Zealand and one from Australia. So those, we've had a lot. We've had Thailand, we've had South Korea, Vietnam, we've Japan, but we don't get a lot of teams from Japan, which I'm always surprised about, but we don't.
I can say something to the professor that is harking back to what I said earlier. That a few years ago, Steve was gracious enough to let me enter a team. I didn't know anything about the competition. I didn't know anything about the firms. I got freshmen at one of my classes. So the good news for us was it was free. I didn't have to go to the dean or anybody else to get approval.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give this a try. We got blown away, but I said, this is a great experience for the students because they learn things that they wouldn't if they hadn't done it. And we've got progressively better. So if you're on the cusp, there's almost nothing to lose by doing it. And the benefits, I mean, other than getting 4 students, they're going to put some effort into it. There's no financial cost. You have to go through any bureaucracy. You enter, you run through it the first time. And, and you might say, hey, this wasn't good for me, or this is really a great experience, which for our students, now they look forward to it every year. And I've got students coming to me asking when we can register.
Well,
so what is
they
the
can
financial
register
model?
right now, Tim.
Yeah. So what is the financial model then in terms of who pays, but also what are your expenses, so to speak? Like in our case, we have to spend money on the website, on some administrative help because it's an enormous amount of time, on IT services, things like that. Some IT solutions that we buy. So if you people get honoraria for helping, like it's not a salary, but at least, some sort of a thank you payment. How does it work, if I may ask, with you? So basically, are you running
We
it?
have similar problems with you.
Mhm.
So the very first year they said, go be an entrepreneur, which is something I know how to do quite well. And I hired a web designer. I went to somebody new and trusted who was my GA, and he developed it. That was Corey Cooper, who is kind of the master domo still. And we get him somewhere around, that costs us money. And I tell the sponsors, this is the costs. We use the school's Zoom-based license. We might use Teams in the future. I don't know, whatever the school does. And they let us use that for free. They let us house a website at the school for free. So that in that case, issuance, it's a little, we do 2 things. We get a professional video. And it turns out the student, when we talked to KMI, I was talking to the president, and he goes, well, I don't know if the video did any good. And his vice president says, this is what we use in every ask for every time we ask for money, Carl. And he goes, it couldn't have been more helpful. And then I asked him, we do an AI, a machine learning review of the firm. We've had one firm said it didn't do them any good, and the other firms, especially when the students use them, seem to like it. It does things like, here's a segmentation map for an industry. Here are the industry segments that are receiving money right now. And it has helped students pivot that company. I hate the word pivot, but change the value proposition to areas where more funding is coming, right? And that's pretty good. And sometimes some of the other data isn't good, sometimes it is good, but they give us about 10 slides and they're pretty nice to us. They give us a very cheap price. And I have students that help us on the day of the event, be the Corey, and usually Linda comes out of retirement and does it. Our regional folks run their own. In Africa and Europe, they run their own. That's what I asked them to do. And Tim has stepped up this year with Boston and Rowan. I also talked to Stevens again. There's a new dean, and he was gracious enough to talk to me. And so maybe they'll come back in. Our professor that was leading Stevens's effort retired. And as Tim and I know, we're year by year, depending on when God wants to retire us. and so actually, it's not all that expensive because my dean wanted a New Mexico challenge. And I said, well, I need X amount of money if you want a New Mexico challenge. And I said, if you want to do it, here it is. I went and I talked to Rowan's dean. They want a New Jersey challenge. And I go, fine. You don't have to give me any money. I don't care about that. But if you want a New Mexico firm, this is what we want you to do. We can get you people to do it. And my nut is probably not as big as yours, Voss. And I of course use my GAs unmercifully on this, and since I'm got a lot of grants, I have a lot of people running around. But my dean gave me a course release, and I said, and I go, well, that's great. And she goes, wow, I go, I love teaching. So, you're not doing a great deal for me, but you're right. I said, if you're equating this effort to one course, I said, I'm not, and I actually talked to her after I got back from mass culture. I said, this guy Voss has done some great stuff. And then she goes, can you do as good? I go, probably not, but but I can do what I can do, and I know what we're different, and that's what makes it interesting and good for both of us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought it was just an outstanding issue. I don't understand. Our school has changed. We had a dean 2 deans ago that decided to cut all the concentration out of an MBA, just give a plain MBA. So we don't have really we have an international focus, but we don't have a concentration for the MBA, which is interesting and not good. And technology innovation and entrepreneurship, we don't have anymore, but we still rank in research in the top 20 in the world. And so it helps when you're known in an area. So I don't know. I tell people, if you're going to do a regional, I was asked by Rowan, I said, if you're only going to get schools in New Mexico, in New Jersey, and you can get help from them, you better raise $70,000. And if you can't do that, don't do it. and I said, we'll help you with the base, as we do for the regional. We offer the Zoom base if they don't have it. And I think Rowan might want to use their base this year, which is fine with me. But our school, I just say it's either a school initiative or it's not. If it's not a school initiative, then we don't have to do it. But if you're looking to make a real difference in our community, this does better than anything else. One of the companies we did was Nexus Health. And Nexus Health, we're a rural state. We're the size of Germany, and we have 2.2 million people or something like that. We have the largest permanent fund of any state. So that's a positive, but we also have real educational problems. And And I said, you either have to help the firm scale because nobody's coming here. And we don't have a single firm that's on the top 1,000 headquarters. And so we look a lot like Finland looks, right? We look a lot like most of Australia looks. We look a lot like many of the states or provinces in the Netherlands look. And so, and the other hand, we have exceptional technology sources here. We have 3 innovation centers for the United States here. We have Air Force Research Lab or Phillips Lab. We have Sandia National Labs, and we have Lanham. We also have a missile range, and Goddard Space Museum. So we have, for a small in population state, we're very focused on things like that.
So you have things we don't, and I wish we had. So unfortunately for us, or at least for me, no course releases and things like that. But sort of our motivation is, well, first, it's a lot of fun, and we, have a nice team with people like Tim and then Leilani and Karen. So it's become sort of an enjoyable process, but also research. So since we have to publish or we will perish, we essentially turned X-Culture into a research lab.
I will tell you that I was very highly impressed at X-Culture. I enjoyed myself. I went to all the events, even though please don't put this on, even though I know that I didn't do a very good job of presenting. I was just dead tired.
We blame Tim, so he was the one who cut you off and didn't give you enough time. Right, Tim?
It's always my fault.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Bob.